And I don't think that people really understand. We are not living for the present, we're living for eternity. So it is very, very much what you do right now. What's up, everybody? It's your girl KP. We are on KP on the Mic podcast, and I am here with two of my great friends. We're going to be discussing today some topics that relate more to like socioeconomic status and how we can take those things and turn it into entrepreneurship. That everything in life is a choice, and how these fine gentlemen here have made different choices coming from different places to get where you are today. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Renard. I'm the owner of Carl & Carson Logistics, 3 trucks, and I've been in business for like 5 years.
Amen. Go on and give me some, yeah.
My name is Taj Mahal. I'm an independent contractor. Also a solid investor. I prefer properties and things of that nature. And that's what it is.
What's your Instagram?
My Instagram, you can follow me at The Brunch God. That's THE, Brunch, GAWD.
My name is Nard, NARD _Kake, KOCKIEE, Instagram.
All right, guys, so let's get into it. Let's start talking a little bit. They attended my brunch, the Power Brunch 2. Absolutely successful, amazing event, networking. And I gave a little brief synopsis of who I am, where I came from, how I got into entrepreneurship. I did not come from, the projects or anything like that, but my parents did not have it. We moved here with $400, a 13-inch TV, and a Hyundai. Like, that's it. And we literally have all the success that we have now. My parents are very successful. They live on water. Like, they act like they're not grandparents, though, because they definitely ain't watching nobody kids. So we want to talk a little bit about, let's start with where you came from, you growing up. Like, what was your childhood like?
Well, I come from out of the Lake Ridge Projects from out of Lakeland, Florida. A single parent household. My mom raised me. I'm the last child of 3. I got an older brother and an older sister, and then I'm the last of the.
So you're the baby.
Of the 3, yeah, I'm the baby, and it was rough growing up in the 90s. I was born in '84, but raised in the 90s, so it was real. It was real rough growing up without a father. So I was raised by a woman, and everything that I know is come from my mother and from the streets, because it just was like one of those situations. Like as I got older, my mama couldn't really just tell me nothing, because I looked up to the guys that I seen that was doing bigger things, bigger than me. So I come from out of the Lakeland, Florida, Lake Ridge Projects that got knocked down and had got revamped now. So yeah.
Okay. And where did you come from?
I'm from Polk County. I pretty much lived all over Lakeland, from the hood. Most of my life was in Georgetown. I come from a 2-parent home, but at the same time, I got 4 brothers, 2 sisters. Most of my brothers was big time hustlers, so I kind of had like a culture shock, you know what I'm saying, the polarity. So my mom and daddy was in the church real heavy. So on one end, we spiritual. At the same time, I looked up to my brothers because that was the signs of success that I saw.
Right.
Until I became an adult, I'd never seen success in the form of a career or business. It was always street cats, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's my upbringing.
So it's a little bit different when you're dealing with a 2-parent household versus a 1-parent household. And with that being said, both my parents are still together. They've been together almost 40 years. Even though you had that 2-parent household, your family, your siblings still went the hustle.
Well, I think it's because the way I was raised. My parents was married 40 years till my daddy died. But my dad he grew up in a tumultuous lifestyle. So both his parents either were killed or went missing at like 12 years old. So he grew up in foster care. So you got a guy who went directly from foster care to Vietnam at 17 years old, and then he came out of his Black Panther. So with our situation, he was very militant, very strict. So I think that's why a lot of us tend to, go the other way, because he was real strict. He meant well, but his methods were like real aggressive. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So he believed in masculine men you know, men that stood up for themselves and things, you know, stuff like that. So.
And so growing up in a one parent household, which is a typical stereotypical African American cultural tradition, they don't typically have both parents in the house, which, you know, even now, like I feel like I hardly ever see people with their kids, you know, mother or father or anything like that. So I think it's something that we've kind of as a culture just adapted to. Why do you feel like you allowed outside influence to take over like your mom? Because we know that in this culture, like if you were raised by your mother, like there's like an undeniable love, respect, like for your mother. So why do you feel like you allowed people that were maybe on the outside to have way more power and influence over you than your own mom?
Because it was like one of them things, like growing up in the projects, like you really never know what you get from day to day. You know, you may get a crackhead may come through and he may just do something crazy. Then you may get a bossed up guy that may ride through with some rims on his car. Then he may give you some money. And then again, like you may get a friend that may come through who you go to school with, who's gonna brighten up your day. So like for me, it was much more like as I got older, because I was mama's baby. So I was the last child. So mama always used to be like, "That's my baby." So it's just like.
So you got away with a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I did. And then I used to tell them, you know, I used to drop the dime on my brother and my sister. But as I got older, I kind of got out of that because my father never wasn't around. So it was due to the fact that my mother was she's always was hard working. So I used to watch my brother bring his friends around. So I used to always look up to his friends. His friends became my friends. And then I wanted to be a dope boy.
Yeah.
Like I had dreams and aspirations of having a Chevy, gold. The only reason why I got my gold teeth is because that was a part of me. But I'm trying to, you know, I'm gonna remove them. But it was one of them things that like that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that's all I knew because my mother never. She raised me to a certain point. She did a great job now, but it just was the simple fact that as I got older,
survival mode.
It's just nothing that she possibly could do.
Right.
And then I just had to learn on my own because.
So at what age do you guys think that you were when you guys decided, okay, I'm going to be a hustler, I'm going to be in the streets, and there's no real like...
Well, for me, it wasn't really, I never made a decision like I'm finna go hustle. That wasn't really the thing. My parents, even though they provided everything spiritually and consciously, we didn't have the finances. So I always had ambitions and aspirations that was bigger than my city, the small city I lived in. But whenever I'm trying to do certain things and I have talent, you have to say no.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm qualifying for different things in school based off of my intellect, but the answer is no because you can't afford for me to go. Right. So for me, I think when I kind of turned into, because I got kicked out the house at an early age. And so it was kind of like there was no other options, you know what I'm saying? So I left, my first time running away from home was 15. My last time living with my parents like 16 to 17 years old. So it just triggered it. I guess it's a natural process at that point, especially when you have like the environmentally learned behaviors and people that you see around you. And this is the first thing that you're exposed to. Now, I didn't want to commit to the level my brother was to that, but I was like, man, I just got to, you know, find different hustles and different way to be able to afford the lifestyle I wanted to, you know, do or whatever.
Right. So it's so crazy because it's like, it's like a real life cycle.
Yeah.
Like it is a real life cycle of oppression. It is a
curse.
real life curse of generations prior and still, you know, to come. So when it comes to things like that, and now you two both have children. So how do you feel like you guys have to really instill that in your own children? How do you keep your children from making those same mistakes? Like, because everybody's inquisitive and they want to do things on their own and they want to know. And it's almost like, you're going to tell me not to go to the streets, but like you was in the streets. Like, and I'm seeing how you are now. So maybe I got to go to the streets first to get to where you are, you know? So how do you direct the youth and the young generation, whether it be your children, your nieces, nephews, and be like, yo, like, that's not the route you want to go?
I think the beautiful part about my family is it's a whole bunch of survival. So my family growing up, it was either they were either selling or we had addicts. You know what I'm saying? I got aunties that were addicts and they recovered than building different rehab homes. For me, it's just giving them the truth and the reality of the matter. It's also positive imagery. So for me, like right now, my daughter, for her 3rd birthday, we took her to New York for her birthday. I mean, we could have went to Chuck E. Cheese, but I want her to see early on that there's something bigger out there than the surroundings on her block. I think exposure to traveling, and when I started reading, it started to create a paradigm shift and started get my mind to kind of shift in a different direction. So
you using a whole lot of big words.
My-
So what kind of grades you got in school that
it's
forced you to
real-
use
honestly,
it?
it's
And
real
I'm like paradigm.
No.
I ain't heard that one in a minute. But go on in and he just roll with that sentence.
Hey, yo,
No,
yeah.
real
You got commas, pauses.
You know what's crazy
Punctuation.
though? You know what's crazy? It's funny. It's this cliche. Everybody say you read because when you read, it can take you out of the world that you in. But when I was locked up, I began reading. The first book I read was 48 Laws of Power. And 48 Laws of Power, like when I first got it, it was too much for me to digest. But it still stayed in my head. And I remember meeting a guy in jail that kept asking me questions that I couldn't answer because all I knew was the same spiritual setting I came from, but it wasn't making sense. But I read the book again, man, and when I tell you, it just started to change my brain and change my mentality. One of my favorite laws is law number 25, which is recreate yourself. And so I began to adapt that as my mentality, always evolving, always trying to go to another level so you don't plateau or become stagnant. You know what I'm saying?
At what age do you think is where you peaked and was like, yo, I'm done with this? Like,
Oh, I'll tell you, for me, when I went before, it was a petty charge though, but the state attorney was my classmate. I kid you not, the state attorney was my classmate. I won't say her name, but she looked out. I came before court, I think I was like 25 years old. And at that time, all my friends was doing the same stuff. So to come back and see somebody you hadn't seen in 10 years and see her in a position of power like this, my life, you know what I'm saying, even though it wasn't life charge, but my life was in her hands. And she hit me up and she was like, don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? But that shifted me because I realized you can do whatever you want now. You don't have to do this, you know what I'm saying? So that was the opening for me.
what about for you?
Well, my turning point for me was, I can't even lie. Shit. I actually used to do music, and I had dreams and aspirations as becoming an artist.
You sing?
I used to rap. Yeah, so
Oh, you a rapper trapper?
yeah, I was a rapper trap.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm actually the same.
yeah, he could sing. He used to do music too.
Okay.
So you know what I'm saying. So I had dreams and aspirations as becoming an artist, and then because that's just what it was, and then it really kicked in for me when I moved to Atlanta, 2017. When I moved out there to Atlanta, and then I was like, man, like this is my last shot at it, like this is my last swing. So I was working on a temp job. I was making like $17 an hour, but I was killing them on overtime, like 50 hours. So you know what I'm saying. So it was alright, but I was check to check. So I used to go to Magic City, whatever.
Oh, you was outside.
I was outside. I was sliding the Mercury, 2004 Mercury, with the dark tints on it. So, I remember, I'm not even gonna lie, I remember when I got $60 from out of the bank, and then I went and got ones, and I had exchanged it inside of Magic City and said that I want 61s, and then I was just like, okay, well, when they called me up there, I could throw my little ones, and then I just go home, and then maybe they'll select me because I'm gonna have a good stage performance. So Pee Wee the Long Way came in there, and when he came in there, he made a mess.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus Christ, like what can I like I can't come back.
Okay, we're gonna go to my dream tomorrow.
Yeah. So I was like, well, let me go back and get some more money.
Right.
So I went back and got 50 more ones, and maybe this
Not
will
50.
last me. So he wasn't even paying attention to the script. He was eating chicken wings, just throwing money. It was just like, so I'm like, God damn. So I was hoping that they keep the money up there, so when I come on stage, it look good for me.
Right.
Well, they swept it up with a broom, and they cleaned the whole stage. So,
$110.
yes, I told my I throw my little bread, you know what I'm saying? I throw my little bread.
I mean, that's more than some people do now.
You know what I'm saying? So I sprinkled it, you know what I'm saying? And then after that, I just felt. I mean, I was just felt that it wasn't for me no more, and I went back home. And in 2018, I had met a friend of mine. He was in trucking because I always did trucking, but he told me about a position that was open out there in Texas that could. He was just like, hey man, I got my own truck and I'm making this amount. So I was just like, well, I don't have my own truck. Then he was like, well, maybe you could apply for these jobs here. So I applied for a job that was paying $25 an hour, 70 hours a week in on hours, and it was $75 a day in per diem. I went out there for like from February to February to May and stayed up like $15,000. I came home, I spent three on my kids, went back out there by June, I stayed up $23,000. And so I say my turning point in my age, it was in 2018. So I'm 38 now. So that was what, about roughly 4 years ago. So 34 was it clicked. Like it clicked. And man, when I tell you I was out there in Texas and I see Texas, Florida raised me, but Texas made me.
Real
Yeah.
spirit.
And
Real
then I
spirit.
had to move away to make a way.
Yeah.
And then I never even, I mean, I stumbled upon this whole, I would say, entrepreneurship or trucking, because I didn't ever had dreams and aspirations doing this here. It just was me being around. I had to put myself in position. So
That's
throughout
right.
life, I know it ain't where you're from, it's where you're at.
Right.
You have to be in position and
Yes,
around people for you could see what's really popping. So for me, 34, it really clicked in. And when I tell you that I went out there in Texas and I killed it, I went out there with nothing, with like $33 to my name. I got picked up from the airport. I couldn't afford an Uber. I stayed in a Motel 6, and I told myself I'm not coming back to it. I get whatever I want. And then I came back with two semi trucks and a 2019 dually truck with rims and everything, and then it's been popping ever since. I'm able to provide for my family, and built a new home and just able to just prosper, and things been great for me. So I'd say 4.5 years ago it clicked in for me. So
do you feel like you guys had to get to that point in your life where you became so broken that like you had to call on your faith? Like, how do you feel? Do you feel like from the socioeconomic statuses, the hoods, the projects where you guys are from, do you feel like if it was incorporated more like faith, like having that faith and that belief in yourself, if that was instilled, because we all got grandmas that tell us
Right.
things, we all, but like we not paying attention to really the faith part of what it really is until we get this age.
right.
Until we get this age is when we really find that appreciation, like, yo, I'm here because of God. Like,
That's real.
I am not here because of anything but that. Like, I think like for people it's that understanding of like I had to be the most broken ever. Like you really find yourself in a very dark place. Like,
Yeah.
how do I get out of this? How do I do this? So do you maybe feel like, going in, and for those that have made it out of those situations, maybe going back into those communities and pouring into those communities and getting those young kids to say like, listen, like, bro, like, I'm telling you straight up, there's only two ways out of this.
It's
Like-
it's one of the main reasons why, even though I know how to dress up for a business meeting, I keep my image culturally sound, because I need the jits to be able to relate to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Jits don't like, there's a gap between someone that's in the corporate office. If you can't talk, they talk. If you can't tell them that you've been through what they've been through, they're not gonna connect with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, now that you brought up spirituality and faith, I became to understand knowledge of myself. Everybody who knows me know I'm a history buff, and so.
You sound like you was
Yeah.
real smart, just making dumb
But not,
decisions.
yeah, that's what it always been. But I think the intellect actually translated over here, because I'm dealing with knuckleheads in the street, but I
Right.
don't move like them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I think at the end of the day, me having the Black Panther Foundation, it was always there, but I started to study more so history, spirituality, and stuff like that. And when I started to read and understand like the root of where we come from, the origin of where we come from, I can't look at my black brother and do some foul shit to him.
Right.
I can't do some, you know what I'm saying? Because now I'm being held accountable by the universe or whatever your belief system is. And so whatever I put in the atmosphere, I know I'm going to reciprocate.
Right.
So now I hold myself to that, because that's how I feel. Like, you know what I'm saying? The energy I put out, I'm bound to get back. So I say knowledge of self and just studying about where we come from is my root for my change. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like when it comes to the young kids and things like that, like I think too, it's like everybody, and I often hear a lot is like product of my environment. I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of my environment. But what about the choice? Like what about the choices you have when it comes to being a product of your environment and staying in that environment? Because the only way we're going to be able to do anything is if we step outside of the box. So my family, we're Cape Verdean, we're African descent, like real black. People don't believe it, but I'm real life black, like motherland black. So for me, like when I go home in Rhode Island, like I don't belong because I am here in Florida where, I'm on the scene and I'm in the nightlife and I'm a boss and I work and I have all these people that work underneath of me. To go home and you're like, oh, well, what do you do? And they're like, oh, well, I collect a check. And you're like, well, bitch, what's wrong with you? Like, you see straight, you look like you talk right. Like, oh, I got depression.
Yeah.
And it's like they kind of like ride the system a lot. Right. So for me, it's like I don't relate anymore. So do you ever feel like you get to a point where you're like, I can't go back anymore because I don't relate anymore?
With me, I visit because the visit keeps me grounded. So I keep ties with certain individuals. But with that being said, I won't allow myself to be around certain energy. You know what I'm saying? I also don't think it's an excuse for an adult. Now, when you were bringing up the situation in regards to choices, kids oftentimes don't see the choices. They don't even have the knowledge to know that there are different choices, especially if they got a mother or a father who don't expose them to it.
Right.
You gotta
most in that culture, your moms are working.
Yeah.
Two, 3 jobs,
you know? Me?
We're not around. I've been a mom to work 2, 3 jobs and realize like, I barely see my kids,
Real.
And my kids didn't grow up like that, but even still I was shorting them that time, that love, that affection, not because I wanted to, but because I had to in order to give you the life that you deserve. So we don't have to do that, So I just feel like faith, like how do we bring faith back into these communities? Because what's missing from it is that sense of hope.
Resources, though, you did the right thing for your kids. The thing is, as long as you present options to your kids, they get a better chance. Now, that don't mean it's bulletproof and it's 100%, but if your child is talented, your child plays an instrument, and you're able to invest into their instrumentation, their musicianship, you know what I'm saying? You get them a better chance because now they're busy in something that's an actual hobby. I was a singer early on, qualifying for All-State, nationally and everything else like that, but I couldn't go on the trips. Now, or even football or whatever the case we were doing. Now, suppose you're able to invest in that. Now I have tons.
Now you're on American Idol with Ruben Studdard.
Yeah, I got my why. You know what I'm saying? So I think as soon as you can develop what the child's why is or their purpose and where they're trying to go, they're kind of,
Do you feel like though that's an easy task to do for some parents that may not know what their actual purpose is?
I think
how can I help you reveal yours if I don't know what mine is?
Well, you're not responsible for what your circumstances are, but you're responsible for remaining in it. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day,
would that be choice?
Yeah, we're in the age of information now. So, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? As an adult, like, yeah, you came from the hood, but if you coming from the hood is not a negative. That's the thing people have to understand. Keeping that hood mentality is, you know what I'm saying? At some point, you got to grow. Right. And the only things that are dead don't grow. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, mentally wise, you got to keep yourself, around people that inspire you, which is why I hang with my dog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
And coming to your business branch and hearing people saying, I spent $2 million on promo last year. I need that kind of talk. Yeah. That lets me know I'm not dreaming big enough. You know what I'm saying? So.
And I always say, if you can move on a vision without God, it ain't big enough.
It ain't big enough.
Like, I need to be sitting in the vision like, okay, what's next? How we getting here?
And where there's no vision, there's no provision.
And there's no progression either.
Talk. Hey, take a sip to that, man. Take a sip.
We gonna chill for that one.
You know what I'm saying? You feel me?
So, let's talk about a topic that I am very, even though I don't come from this particular upbringing, there's certain things that, I didn't have everything. Like, there were the girls in school that had the shoes, that had this. I started working when I was 14.
Oh, yeah?
I started working when I was 14 because my parents could not afford the things that I wanted in high school, to not get bullied or not, get picked on and stuff like that. So at 14 years old, I started working at a doctor's office. I was a file clerk, making $10 an hour. 14, making $10. I was good. Then I started here in Tampa. So I moved here when I was 9. I've lived in Tampa for 28 years. So Tampa raised me. And this is my home. This is
your home.
this is my home.
No matter what.
No matter what. So for me, it's like I kind of went through where like, okay, I didn't come from these socioeconomic like downfalls on this side, but I had to figure out now what do I do, because my parents don't got it like everybody else's parents. Like, I'm not wearing the nicest shoes. I'm not wearing like, I'd be lucky if I got 2 shoes the whole year, you know?
That's
like
real.
You getting your shoes before school, and if they match all your clothes, you done lucked up. If they don't, you gonna be walking barefoot.
That's real.
You know? So I started working, started making different choices. Then I started working for a communications company, making $14 an hour when I was 17, you know? So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, how do you feel like, and during this time, we didn't have a social media that was telling us what we were supposed to be and how you supposed to look at this age.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I be looking at 22-year-old girls and I be like, man, how, Sway?
Yeah,
like, we ain't seen you on a job site. We ain't seen you on a computer. Like,
It's
all
easier
your
now.
stories is in a
It's
bikini
easier
by the pool. Like, what life you living? Like,
Yeah.
It's easy now, man. They got access to everything now.
so do you feel like that impacts what the misconception and misperception is when you go into the hood? Because now we're giving these children who we're trying to equip them with choice and equip them with knowledge of getting out. We've now put you in a position where we are giving you a fake narrative that we're asking you now to live up to. So now how do we differentiate, like, damn, I'm even on the gram, like, I live a really good life, you know? So how do you now take what their real life is, because these children are really embedded in this, and say, don't do this, but I know you really want to do this because you want to look like this. So what do you do?
Oh, yeah, that's a great, listen, that's a great question. Listen, I don't know where you get that from, but that's great. Because listen, I have a 13-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a 19-year-old daughter that attend Clark Atlanta University. And then, you know, the thing is about it is with my 13-year-old son, I speak to him in a way of, I let him know, like, listen, I know what you see on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, just social media. Anything you want to see is in the palm of your hand, which is a cell phone. They could
It's
Google
become the
anything.
source.
Yeah, so
They don't talk to us anymore
That's
like
real.
that.
so what me and his mom put inside of him, I know who you really are. And then I know what I put inside of you. So if you looking to be a gangster, a thug, or whatever, I don't care who you hanging around, you need to be who you really are. Because you know everything is glorified. The bad is the good, and the good is the bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's lame to be smart.
Mm-hmm.
It's lame to be from the suburbs, like, but it's good to be from the hood.
Mm-hmm.
So my son asked me, Daddy, why do everybody glorify the north side than the south side? I said, son, listen, I'm your OG. I'm your big dog. I don't been through everything. Listen, you ain't got to worry about that. Listen, when I was on the north side, it was bad. I always wanted this life. So me and your mother providing this for you, it's okay for you to be smart. It's okay for you to speak proper, to be articulate, to be in accelerated classes. These guys who glorify the gains and want to be like this here, and then want to be that, want to flash money, that's not good. I've been through that. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to take that road no more. Yeah. So for me, I try to tell my son is that just be the best who you can be and be who I installed you in. So like the things that I put inside you, me and your mother, you need to go out there and represent us the best way that you possibly can, because I know the real you. And then social media could be fake. I mean, social media is fake 90% of the time. There's only a couple of people on there keeping it real, but not all people. So look, don't get tricked off the streets just because of what you see on social media, because it's all about followers. Mm-hmm. It's all about putting on. You know what I'm saying? But
so he's 13, right?
He's 13.
So how old is yours?
My oldest 17, 16. I got a 4-year-old daughter.
Okay,
But
so
even-
my son's 16.
Yeah.
I don't allow him to have social media
Wow.
That's smart.
at all.
But even
because
my-
mentally,
You don't?
you're not there where you need to
Yeah.
be to
No,
handle
that's
that.
real. That's real.
So I know what women go through, what men are looking.
That's real.
Mentally, we are in this world where even as adults,
It's
we
hard.
often judge our lives to their lives.
Yeah.
So you're not mentally equipped to deal with what's going on social media, so you don't need to be exposed to it.
So, question. He has a cell phone, right?
He has a cell phone.
So how do
She's
you?
blocking it.
Yeah,
So you have that app that you can block
the social medias. And my son is like it's crazy because he's very like old soul.
Yeah.
Like he's very smart. So when he often finds himself around people that are not where he is, he removes himself.
That's real. That's real.
You see, like I'll be like, oh well, why haven't you hung out with so and so? He'd be like, Mom, he's dumb. Like
You know
he
what?
does dumb things. He makes stupid. He got caught smoking weed. Like who does that?
Man.
You know, so like, but that's because I have not put him in front of his device that shows him smoking weed at this age is cool. Doing this is cool. Like you're not mentally equipped to handle that. I see people commit suicide because they don't live up
That's
to this
real.
fake facade. So why am I going to expose you to that? So then when he gets older, he
He can make
doesn't
his
even
decision.
look at this as this is what I need to
The
be because
standard.
I got where I'm at without it.
It's crazy because my daughter's 4 years old. She lives with me, and it's funny how much kids at that age, how much how to access phones and whatever the case may be. But I'm not worried about her turning to the streets or anything crazy like that. But even her image at this age, I don't allow her to have certain baby dolls or dolls if it doesn't reflect her image. I don't. It's certain things at 4 years old she wants to put on mommy's makeup or do whatever, and I have to limit it because I want to establish who you are. Be confident in who you are as a young sister. You know what I'm saying? And so to me, social media, we don't even allow certain things. I don't allow certain TV shows.
Yeah.
There's no love in hip hop or any of that in my household because I don't want her to embody that ratchetness that is cool that we see in
In our culture.
right now. So
You don't need it.
yeah.
Not even YouTube.
Because you compare real life to
Not even YouTube.
He
you
can
compare-
watch YouTube, but he does not do anything like on YouTube or nothing. Because now we're saying, okay, this person like Ryan's World. Oh, he's got millions and millions and millions of dollars. And now it's like all we have to do is this. No, that's not what life is. Like life is going in the paint.
Yeah.
Life is figuring out who you are. Life is going and making sure that you do everything that you need to do to be the person that you're supposed to be for the purpose you're supposed to fulfill.
That's real.
You not finna play with toys all day long.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna let you compare
And I'm not
yourself
gonna let you compare
to a highlight reel.
to this 9-year-old
Yeah.
and you 9 years old just because his parents chose to let him do this. That was his. That's his
That's
path.
his destiny, yeah.
That's not yours. You know, it may be, but I'll know that as a parent. You know what I mean? Because as parents too, I'm gonna support you in whatever
That's
you
right.
want to do. But it gotta make sense.
You gotta make sense.
Simply play with toys all day.
We not finna be playing with toys all day. We finna pick up and read a book. You finna draw. You finna write. You finna get in
The
touch
real
with
things.
the real who you are. You know what I mean? Like, so what would you say to your younger self?
What would I say to my younger self?
Like, if you had to tell yourself one piece of advice, like,
Same thing my mama told me, 18 years old, drive slow, homie. Like when she started to see shit start to speed up, my mama always say, Taj, slow down, slow down. But I think the biggest thing I would have did if I had to undo and change for my younger self is forgiving my father. I think I had to overcome a lot of trauma from what the relationship we had, you know what I'm saying? And it's funny, as kids, you think you know it all. You think you got to figure it out. But I'm realizing I have to unwrap
but don't be looking for a darn bill that come out the
at
mailbox.
all, you know what I'm saying?
At all.
But-
You be like, you know everything go. You know how to pay these people the money.
And when you start dealing with your own children, you realize, damn, I see why he did that. Or damn, you know, so unfortunately, I wasn't able to have that conversation before he passed. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only thing. That was my only regret is not making that up.
Giving
Right, so-
grace.
Yeah, bingo. There you go. Yeah, giving grace.
You give grace because you get grace.
That's real. That's real, man.
You know, we're not perfect, so you
Yeah.
give grace because you
Yeah.
get grace. So a topic that we don't really talk about when it comes to our culture, I would say, which I would like to bring light to, is PTSD. I think that PTSD, most people think, oh, they're military, that's that, you know, it only exists in that. But I think that PTSD exists in the hood. It exists in our
I
culture.
think more so.
We're seeing things at a young. You go to the military, you're at a certain age. You're an adult.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing these things.
Yeah.
So what happens when you're 5 and you're seeing somebody dead on the concrete?
That's real. That's real.
Like, how do you think that PTSD, do you think that's real in our culture as far as just coming from the places we've come, the social injustices, the socioeconomic, differences between the cultures? Do you think that fully exists?
I think PTSD
even more so.
I think PTSD is wrapped up in different ways. Not only is it the blunt force trauma of seeing somebody get killed or whatever case, but it's also complacency. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You start to get conditioned based off the environment you lived in. You thinking that's all for you in life. You know what I'm saying? I would say for me, like even to this day, man, I still flush the toilet while I'm dropping the load. I'm flushing because that's some shit I learned in jail.
Right.
I still don't let people stand behind me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's certain things that I've learned and certain survival tactics I've learned that I'm starting to break through. Even learning how to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And how to love and how to accept love. You know what I'm saying? And trust people. You know, because, in our culture, you walk by, you don't even speak to strangers. You just keep
Right.
it going.
Just keep going.
I had to program myself to speak to the brother when I walk by and smile at the brother, to let his guard down, his defenses go down. So I do think it's big in our culture. I think it's big in our men from a more militant point of view and in our females because a lot of them raised in environments where they don't trust dudes.
Right.
So from an early age, dudes are accessories to them. They can't even build core families because dudes are only used as a expendable type object or whatever the case may be. So I do think it's real. And I think we have to get to the root of that before we can ever get past and grow.
Right. So mental health, I had a doctor on and we discussed it the last episode. Mental health within cultures, we did touch on it really quickly. It's rising in our culture by 3%, decreasing in white people. So we're seeing more suicides amongst our young African American teens than we have ever.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give them when it comes to like an average 13 to 18-year-old trying to figure out who they are? They are in a one-parent household. And you're where you are now. Like, what advice do you give them? Like, do you tell them, like, don't give up, hold on, make a different choice? Like, if you're in a room with people that are all like-minded and robbing, stealing, killing, that's not the right room.
That's real.
Like, I don't think that people really understand, especially at that young age, like, you only get one life.
Yeah.
That's real.
And you got one shot at this. You're going to be dead a lot longer than you ever going to be alive.
That's real. That's real.
Okay?
That's real.
So the amount of time I'm here is going to determine what happens after.
That's real.
And I don't think that people really understand. We are not living for the present. We're living for eternity. So it is very, very much what you do right now. And we see what we see on the internet, but I don't think they really understand, like, the fast cars, the money. That you can't get none of that locked up.
That's real.
Or dead.
That's real.
So what you're chasing, you have to make different decisions.
I mean, it goes back to energy. Like I said earlier, energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. So it's one of the main reasons I don't hang around certain people. Like I don't even put myself in certain environments where I feel like I'm more inclined to show you who I was. Like, I'd rather just be somewhere peaceful. I was just telling you before the cameras came on, I come here on live music nights, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I can chill. I ain't got to worry about nobody stepping on my shoes or whatever. But when it comes to kids, I think, and mental health, the biggest thing is gratitude. You ever want to get out of any mental health situation, be thankful for the situation and what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Most depression and most things, to me, are triggered by you comparing yourself to something else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, even on bad days, I have to remind myself, you're blessed. You may not be where you want to go or where you want to be, but you're blessed. And look how far you've come. You know what I'm saying?
And you might not be where you want to be right at that present moment because you're supposed to be patient in that season.
And you're not ready. Like, it's,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You're not ready. You think you're ready.
That we're in such a rush to get to this, like, I want to look flashy. I want to look this. I want to look that it's like, hold on, because there's a whole season you got to be stealing.
That's real.
There's a whole season you need to be patient in so that you can understand and develop who you're supposed to be once you get to that next season, you know? So I think, like, and I also think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like, culturally,
I'm sorry about that.
culturally, we actually, you know, we actually go to church. We've all been raised in church. Everybody got a grandma that keep you in church all day long. Okay, I used to be there all day.
That's
Okay,
real.
you get your food after church, everything. My grandfather was very big in church. I feel like we've gotten to this point where we have allowed God to be out of the house and the devil to come in. And the devil meaning the social media,
Yeah.
the music, the things like that. Because now we're not glorifying people that own trucking companies. We're not glorifying the men that own real estate. We're glorifying a young thug who's about to go to jail forever.
See, now,
You know?
me and you have different opinions on that. And it's not bad. You're not wrong. For me, I feel like the black community is filled with churches. It's filled with faith. I think what changed me is realizing that it's not just faith. Faith without works is dead. You know what I'm saying? So I had a praying mama. Everybody I know got a praying mama. You know what I'm saying? But also we have to have tangible items with the prayer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You have to have resources with the prayer. That's why I said to me, imagery is so important because I do want to be grounded in belief, but at the same time, man, give these kids information and knowledge. We got a church on every block, but the community is still in the same condition. So for me personally, I'm not against the church at all. That's not what
So
I'm
do
saying.
you feel like the churches are not pouring back enough into the community?
I won't ever do that where I nitpick and criticize the church in that capacity. I'm just saying it takes more than just that. So if you're teaching a child to pay tithes, that's cool. But why not teach them how to budget? Why not teach them financial literacy? You know what I'm saying? Why not teach them to take them somewhere where someone's doing real estate or expose them to the banker? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not to me to accommodate the church, we need other things and other facets. When in our community, for the most part, we only do it one dimensional, which is the church.
Right. What about you? Should we
Sorry about
put
that.
church back in and make sure that he's saying churches are on every single corner, but we've provided this fake world or this fake image of what life really is that we've kind of like stepped away from.
Like, I don't want to live through hell to get to heaven.
Right.
You feel me? I don't want to have to go through that, man. Teach them kids they can have heaven right now.
Right.
And it starts with the choices they make. You know what I'm saying?
My pastor always says CDCs: choices, decisions, consequences.
I like that.
CDCs:
Choices,
decisions, and consequences.
Yeah.
Because with a choice, you got to decide on that.
That's real.
And when you decide on that, there can be a consequence
That's
for
real.
it.
I just personally think that now, just to pick up back off what Tyler said, man, I feel like, I don't know, it just feel like it's just one of them things that back then when I was coming up, man, people used to knock on your door and try to drag you into church. Like, it'd be like, hey, we over here painting your face and we giving a little seminar and you could, you know, we giving out candy and fruits for you could like serve God. But now it's not like that no
Right.
more. It's like one of them things that every social media took over so bad.
They've
and
made
then,
church like a hashtag,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
trendy.
yeah,
So now
yeah.
it's like you really don't know how to dive into your faith. You really don't know how
That's
to
real.
connect spiritually with the
That's
Spirit,
real.
with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Because when you
Relationship.
pray, you should feel like you're not even in your body.
That's
yeah.
real.
Because you should be so
I
connected
heard
with the
your
Spirit.
prayer the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like you should be able to just flow
Yeah,
off the Spirit, you know?
yeah.
So I feel like sometimes on social media we've made church like trendy instead of saying, no, you really need to, this is not just it for us, you know? Like these little Instagram posts and all this, like you really need to open the Bible.
Yeah.
You really need to read the word.
But put it like this: would you go to a physical trainer to train you to get your body right if they weren't in shape?
Right.
Would you?
No.
You wouldn't. So my thing is, I think a lot of kids, they start wanting to see the proof. So if you praying and you saying God could change it, but your life is not indicative of what you believe in, eventually kids today, they don't just follow to be following. You know what I'm saying? So I think if we have more adults like walking out whatever they believe in, like if you believe in Christ or whatever the case may be, and you're living successful as well, that kid's gonna gravitate towards you. You know what I'm saying? Like I always say, like most trainers, you see them in shape, you be like, damn, bro, what gym you go to, bro? You did this, you know what I'm saying? Your life is a reflection of how you know what I'm saying, what you believe in. So I think if majority of the church start getting back to that and start living good, kids will gravitate towards that because that's why they gravitate towards the streets.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So when it comes to curses of oppression and breaking those curses, what advice would you give to parents to say, like, hey, if you let's just speak on the aspect of you've got a mom or you've got a dad just trying to figure out their next move, like they want to get into entrepreneurship. Like, what do you say to them? Because now they've got a family. And you've got a family that relies on you.
That's real.
So how do I fulfill my dreams in entrepreneurship when I have these kids I really got to take care of and I don't get no help?
That's real.
So what advice do you give them?
Take baby steps, man. Even if it's coming from insurance. Like a lot of us don't know that you can kind of build wealth through life insurance. Everybody's thinking you got to make these grand moves. You know what I'm saying? You could get a small policy. It could be $500,000. You know what I'm saying? Or $750,000. And if you're not able to break the curse for yourself, you can pass that down to your child. You know what I'm saying? Or just putting the name on a credit card and not giving them the card, but building up their credit so when they turn 18, they got a fair shot. You know what I'm saying? Or just even putting property, if you can afford it, in the child's name. I think just giving them those different opportunities and being a vessel in that capacity.
Yeah, because I feel like that our culture don't teach credit. I just not too long ago learned that that credit is way more important than credit. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Credit is way more important than money. You can have all the money in the world. You ain't got no credit. You ain't getting nothing.
I never.
And that's very true. We do come from a cash culture.
I thought that if I just had the money, then everything would follow. But one thing that I know, and then again, that teaches you.
But the wealth
doesn't
follow.
The wealth
your face value is good.
Right.
Long as your word is good, and long as you're persistent on everything you do, like that's how those people go by. Like they want to know, if I loan you this money, would you be able to do this and do that?
Right.
So I learned that along the way, and then I even learned about just like what you were teaching on your stage just the other day at the Power Brunch. You have to borrow sometime in good debt and bad debt. I mean, well, not good credit and bad credit. I'm sorry, good debt and bad debt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you got to put yourself in debt to show money.
Right.
Just for you to get something. But if you write off everything, then
you don't got.
You don't
can't
get
nothing.
You can't get nothing.
I tell people that all the time. They're
Yeah.
like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna write off everything. Well, then what you gonna get? What are you gonna own? Because you ain't got no money.
Yeah.
You showing me you made $2,000 all year long, and you a grown up.
And to be real, I don't understand why it's hard for us to understand credit, because credit really a street principle. Like in the hood, they say keep your face gator.
Yeah.
It's the same shit. So you go into the bank, your face got to be gator. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you got to have a clean
That's
face when
real.
you go in there. So they want to know that you're responsible with the money. And I think a lot of the times we think this stuff is hard information to learn. You know what I'm saying? I was in, what's the word I'm looking for? I was actually scared off by it at first because we cash. Everything cash. I don't pay for it till I got it in my pocket. Man, I was talking to a girl the other day. She said, everybody don't want to buy a house. I rent my apartment. You just renting the house till you own it. I'm like, baby girl, I was in the house 2 years paying a mortgage, which is essentially my rent, and sold the house in 2 years and made over $100,000.
You can't sell that apartment.
You can't sell that apartment. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think those little principles we just don't understand. And, we just got to be around. It's exposure. You got to be around people that talk that talk.
Right.
You got to be around a KP.
Right. Oh, I'm going to listen. I just feel like there's so much for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have culturally been oppressed, and I always tell people, if you read the word, you will know that Pharaoh was cursed. His people were cursed for 400 years. Oppressed, enslaved, everything. That was a curse. 2020, according to the Hebrew calendar, was the end of that 400th year. So we've saw more racism than we ever seen in our lifetime in 2020. You know? So I always say, I know there's more out here. That we were not born to be treated the way that we're treated. Like, you're not going to tell me that.
That's real.
And I know that because I did write an article for the paper called The Power of Being Black. This has more power than any amount of money. Because you've got children of all different races and backgrounds. Whether you're Caucasian, you're Latina, you're Latino, you're black, whatever, you're Indian. When you go into these stadiums and you see these little boys walking around, That's a black man's name on their back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
You know
real.
what?
When you're in a school and your kids is coming up to you, I need to get these shoes. 9 times out of 10, they
Black man
Jordans.
That's real.
Yeah, they're Jay.
But that's why they say
They
kill the
listen
mind.
to our music.
That's real.
It's not. We were not born to be oppressed
That's
because
real.
the influence we have is so powerful.
That's real.
I can stand on a stage in a room of 225
And
people
command
and own it.
Own it.
That's influence.
Yeah.
But that influential spirit only comes from
Yeah. That's real.
who I believe in.
God given.
Right. So for me to know there's so much more here, it's like you cannot tell me we don't have access to that.
But that's why they say kill the mind and the body will follow. Like systemic racism is a real thing,
Right.
but most of our oppression is here now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We no longer shackled no more, like literally in terms of, we all know the prison system is a
Right.
form of slavery, but literally they don't messed up this.
Right.
And so if you convince yourself that you ain't shit, if you can convince a person they ain't shit, they produce those results. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When we culture, like you said, we're the biggest influences in the world.
In the world, we spend 5 times the amount of money than any other
I'm saying?
race in this.
Trillions of dollars on
5
entertainment.
times the amount of money.
Designer and
You know what I'm saying?
everything.
And then but like, do you often feel like maybe some of the responsibility because we know
It's
the influence that we have,
Yeah.
whether we're famous or we're not famous. But with that influence comes responsibility.
Yeah.
And we ain't doing what we're supposed to do because we're in competition with each other.
You know who got criticized for that?
Who?
He said the comment and people took it out of context. And it was because 2019 was actually 400 years. In 2019 is when Kanye West said slavery is a choice, right? What he was saying was to remain in slavery because it was 400 years
Right.
since 1619 when they first touched down. So for us to still remain in the same form, we don't have ownership. We don't have the mentality. Same thing Dame Dash said, do it for your last name. So for us to still be caught up in the Joneses, for us to still place more value on designer or on the streets we live in rather than our legacy. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I'm hearing
we're
people
killing ourselves.
rent their bus down chains. Like,
They renting the bus
they
out.
renting the bus down.
That's
What
fake
the
until you make it
fuck?
right
You
there.
lying.
Like, I swear to God.
Where you
like,
rent one from? I need you one. You feel me?
Listen, first of all, I just found out what a bus down chain was.
No, you did
Look,
not.
That's what I did. I
not,
swear to God.
not living in town.
I was like, no, because I just call them like big chains.
You lived in the
And they was
drop
like,
era.
that's a bus down chain. I'm like, what is a bus down chain?
The one with the ice on them.
The one with all the diamonds. But they rent that. And I'm like, wait,
Wait, how you rent a
like
chain?
like they rent it. They make payments.
Get the
They have
fuck
an
out of
insurance
here.
policy
You
that
lying.
And they make payments, not on the insurance policy, to the jeweler.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
I was just as flabbergasted as you because I said, if you cannot own it, don't buy it.
It ain't even that serious to me though.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
But we live in a world where the facade and image is now who you are.
yeah.
So how do we now, not just when it comes to the youth, but to adults and say, bruh, don't do that. Or sis, that's not where it's at.
It's what you eat. Like, you are what you eat. So if you digesting certain things into your subconscious, you're gonna reflect that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, he'll tell you, I'm private on social media. I talk a lot of shit, but I don't post personal stuff.
Right.
Like in anything in regards to my moves, my vehicles, my car, I don't post it. And the reason being is because I don't want to start putting myself where I'm comparing myself to somebody else.
Right.
Because then what I have won't be good enough. I feel like I got to pull a quick
Keep
lid.
going and going
You know what I'm
and going.
saying? So I just feel like, that's what it really is, man. Start eating better or putting yourself, like every morning, to be honest with you, I wake up in the morning, I listen to motivational or inspirational messages off YouTube every morning. Every morning.
I do prayer and worship
Every morning. You
in
know
the
what I'm saying?
morning from
Well,
6:30.
and then I get in the car and I
6:30 to 7:30.
I listen to some kind
Oh,
of
yeah?
trap music, whether it's Jay-Z, Jeezy, or Ross, because they make me feel like I can go to another level. Every
You
morning.
look like a little Ross.
nah.
Now look at him
Ross.
laughing like that. Look like he about to go on a wing stop. Don't
So from 6:30 to 7
6:30 to 7:30
Every morning?
Every morning, prayer and
So,
worship Monday through
meditate
Friday.
Who do you listen to?
Mhm. Pastor Jomo from Love First Christian Center on Facebook.
I
What
seen you looking at him on Sunday.
Mhm.
He was talking about power.
On
I
Sunday,
watched.
on my day of the brunch, the word that day,
It was power.
the power.
Out of
And I
nowhere.
said, Lord, he gonna be present in that building.
It's a sign.
And he said, you walk in your power. You
That's
own
real.
your power. You be confident in your power. And I was like, he is going to be ever so present in this building. Because that's what my goal was at the Power Brunch. To take our entire community, to bring you into a building where you can see like minds, where you are with people that have elevated maybe a little bit higher than you,
Right.
or you're in a position to now elevate those below you.
That's
But
real.
I purposely make it so I'm putting you in a building to see different.
That's real.
What you haven't seen before, you're going to see different today. You see?
Mhm.
If you did not leave this brunch inspired to be different,
Mhm.
then you was just chilling.
Now, do you think we should target more adults more or target the kids?
Adults.
Like, for instance, you think so?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think if more kids, like girls, see a girl that got the razzle dazzle on like you.
But they're still
Boss
gonna
on
compare.
everything.
They don't know how I got it. They don't
Yes,
see me in the
man.
grind. They don't
That's-
see me in the
that's
paint.
real.
They don't
That's
see
real.
my hours of leaving my house sometime at 8 o'clock in the morning and not coming back till 11.
Wow.
They don't see that. They just see my shoes. They see my
That's
bags.
right.
They see all
That's
this.
right.
Yeah.
So the easiest way for them to get it is, and then they're looking through my followers, and then they seeing all blue checks, this blue check. They're like, oh, she got a. It's the assumption that that's what it is, not knowing that, honey, I don't get dudes to pay nothing for me because I don't give nobody that much power over me.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
understand
real.
the grind.
Okay,
That's real.
I do what I need to do
That's
until
real.
it's time for him to leave this family.
That's real.
I could take care of myself because the
That's real.
abundance has already been provided by my provider. So I'm good. Okay.
You might want to be a preacher. Kid,
I know it. I've been saying I need to be a preacher.
You might have that gift. Cause
Listen, I tried to tell the young girls. I did a program called You Deserve to Be Loved. We streamed into 10,000 girls in Hillsborough County and Pinellas County, 42 different schools. And we talked about self-love. You will never understand who you are supposed to be until you understand you. If you had one thing to say to your mother as to where you are today and look over everything that you've lived on, what's the one thing that you would say to your mother and the one piece of advice you would give to single mothers out here that may be listening and struggling with, I can't talk to my son, or I can't talk to my daughter, they want to fight, they want to do this. What's the one thing that you're going to tell them?
to the single mother, or to my mother.
To both. Well, first we'll do your
Well,
mother.
my mother, I take care of my mother, so she see me on a regular basis. So, my mother has expressed how proud I am because I changed. I made the change. So to her, I just say, man, I thank you that despite the odds and despite my situation, you taught me how to be an individual. You taught me how to walk my same path. So even though I bumped my head doing bullshit, you know what I'm saying, the prodigal son had to come back. You feel me?
Right.
So I just think I express gratitude to her because all of my brothers, all of my family, we think differently, you know what I'm saying, even when we were doing crazy stuff. So I just thank her for providing, making me an individual. To the single mother, man, like, surround your children around positive male role models. You know what I'm saying? No matter how powerful the black woman or any woman is, you still need that masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because the woman is nurturing, but that masculine energy, hey, get your little behind over there. You know what I'm saying? So, and like you said, you need those examples because it's easy to idolize a LeBron James, but it's such a small percentage of guys that go that big.
Mm-hmm.
So you need those positive local examples that a person can be successful locally in their own right. So I tell them to get around positive role models.
What would you?
I would like to tell my mother first of all that she's everything, and she's everything. Everything I am today is because of her, and I appreciate everything she did. She played Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Daddy, Mother.
I'm the worst tooth fairy ever, by the way.
And
You ain't getting $1 about 5 days later.
Yes, I would just like to thank her for just who she is and what she's been in my life, and I do anything for her. I break my back for her. And for the single parents, just to pick it back off what Todd says, watch who your kids be around. Watch the surroundings. Watch what you say around your kids. Watch the man that you bring around your kids, because as they get older, they are sponge, so they're paying attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make that young man or that young lady set those 30 days, those 60-day, 90-day goals.
That's
Make
real.
sure those goals are accomplished. I don't care if it's in progress, but if it's in progress and if it's not finished, then it's not. I mean, it's failure. So
Right.
make sure that they work towards something. Make sure they pay attention. Watch what they look at. Watch their cell phone. Govern them. Like, don't just always just think that just because they of age or you feel like they kind of have that intellect that they're not going, curve off or whatever.
Right.
So always keep it one way with your kid. Don't play the sister and brother or the
Friend.
you my dog, the friend. Yeah, be one way with your kid.
Oh, I tell my kids, I'm not your friend.
Last thing I tell them too, man, because we always talking about what we're gonna do after the child comes. Man, start getting pregnant by these bum ass dudes. They ain't showed you nothing. You know what I'm saying? So the problem solved. You can, as an adult, you can let whoever you want within your bosom is the word I use. You know what I'm saying? But you don't have to get pregnant because you add another layer. You add another layer. And we always talking about what this dude when this he probably wouldn't, but those signs was there. You know what I'm saying? But you got caught up in other things. So look at the tangible items. And like you said, is his word bond? Is he respected amongst his peers? Does he mean what he say? Does he have stuff that shows that his plan is in action? You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in sisters having to date dudes based off the struggle. I don't believe in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, sisters, attach yourself to something that's winning.
Right.
Straight up. And I don't mean just monetarily. You know what I'm saying? Winning here.
But don't think, when he's saying attach yourself to something that's winning, he's not saying go out here and open your legs and be a gold digger for athletes, because that is a very small black percentage of men. And we don't want to go that way. So just want to make sure that they ain't be like, oh, he's telling me gonna be a trick. No. He's not saying that.
You don't mean it at all. But a lot of our broken homes, we already know the guys gonna get they're gonna get in trouble and they're gonna be blamed for what their contributions are to it. But at the same time, like you say, CDC. You know what I'm saying? Make a decision that if a dude hasn't committed to you, don't provide a child that you got to commit yourself to for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? And we all done did it. I had kids that I was, you know what I'm saying?
I ain't finna get me again.
But at the end of the day, don't allow him to do that to you. Since, you got to know your worth as a queen. You feel me?
Right.
Don't let everybody just skeet up here. You feel me?
But honestly, like, going through that, the abundance that I've given to my daughter,
you needed that.
He would never been able to do what I did. So
it's real.
Did it really? It made me go harder.
You outworked.
It made me focus on my goals, what I need to do as a woman, because I think we put a lot of pressure on men, especially in our black culture, to be the provider all the time. And it's like, well, what you doing, girl?
That's real.
What you doing? Because you got all these kids.
That's real.
So I feel like we often take women and we don't kind of put that onto them, and then when they're left in that situation, now we blame them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hold on, we don't really want to blame them for the situation, because when people say to me too, like, well, you knew who it was, I think that people really need to understand that as a mother, I would never inflict that mental trauma onto my child.
That's real.
On purpose.
That's real.
So, yes, I knew at that present moment, maybe this may not be the person that is going to be a great father to my child, but I'll pick up that slack. But I don't think there's any mother that's out here that intentionally inflicts that pain on their child. So when we're saying things like, oh, but you knew who he was, or you heard about this, or you knew this, it's like, also it's like, but there's a purpose in why this child might be there. Like, my daughter was here because she's like my spirit kid. Mm-hmm. Like, she fulfilled my spirit and saved my spirit. She forced me to go look at my faith, to test my faith, to go out here and do that. So that's why when I say sometimes women get so angry in those situations, you got to forgive again so you can live again. I forgive my baby daddy for not being all the way present, because yes, you were up here when it happened, and I might have been here. But one thing about God, He don't play, and He gonna make them people be like, "Are you mad?" I'm never mad, because God had His hands involved in our lives in two separate ways. So where she was your lesson, she was my savior.
What a basket for the tithes, man.
What a Cash App. Okay? Now, so that's what I'm saying. Like, she might have been your lesson of humility, to humble you,
She
to
was
make
your
you
stepping
see.
stool.
But for me, she was my savior.
That's
For
real.
me, she was my fight.
That's real.
So the purpose of her, whether we're together or not, was two different lessons.
Yeah.
One a lesson, one a blessing. You see?
That's real.
So that's why I'm like, the abundance in my life, I'm not pressed about him. I don't get mad.
He pressed about you at this point, though.
I mean, probably. He definitely does not enjoy dealing with me because I don't engage. You know, like I'm not. We're not fighting. I'm not doing that with you. Like, what you talking about? What is we talking about? And I think people really need to get to that level. I think women need to get to that level, and you need to really take all that anger out because you cannot live to your full potential if you're that angry at people. You know what I mean? And you're blocking your own blessings.
They say forgiveness is for you, not for the other person.
Listen.
Straight up.
2 years it took me from the dark place of wanting to kill myself and leave my kids, everything.
You felt like that?
Yes. That going through postpartum, doing this all by myself, to realize like I'm allowing so much of this person to consume who I am and change who I am as a mother, change who I am as a friend, because I live with so much anger inside because of the situation and the circumstance, not realizing what it was actually doing.
It's all abundance, man. A lot of us spend so much time holding on to shit, we don't even have the opportunity to receive something new.
And one thing about God, he does not procreate unless he's intending to do so. So many people go out here and can't get pregnant. And then be with somebody for 10 years, can't get pregnant by him, go with somebody else, got pregnant in a month, you know? That's purpose. That way you weren't supposed to be having a baby with that person.
Yeah.
Some of us weren't supposed to have babies with a whole lot of people. But we did. But we don't even recognize the purpose in that child for what they're supposed to be doing for our life. Some people are single parents and it forced them to go harder. Some people are single parents, it forced them to reflect on their decisions, their choices that they were making. Maybe they were making poor decisions, sleeping with a whole bunch of men, and now they're not. You know what I mean? So I just feel like we get to this point where we're like really trying to project blame. And once you take accountability,
Victim mentality.
we're good. And we live with that in our culture. We're always oppressed, the victims of this. So when do we stand on our 2 feet and say, I'm not doing that no more?
Even scripturally say, you can't put new wine in the old wine skins. You know what I'm saying? Like, your mentality got involved, you know what I'm saying? So you got to get to that point when you just sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're going to change. You know what I'm saying? You're going to change for real. And then you got to be ready to be ostracized by family and friends. Because as you start to change.
Oh, you don't have no more friends.
Yeah, as you start to change, people look at you different. They be like, the people that get on top change, the people around you begin to change. Because you don't know how that same common denominator. They was cool with you.
But not realizing every day you change your clothes.
Real spill.
So every
Every day you change your drawers. I hope.
Yeah, you better.
You know? So every day we do other changes, but when it comes to changing who you are.
But they like you better when you were struggling, though.
Right.
You feel me? So that's why they say with growth comes separation. Because after a while,
and elevation.
If the energy wrong when I come around you, hey man, no, I'm straight, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a relationship a lot. I gotta force it like that. You know what I'm saying? So for real.
Well, I sincerely appreciate you guys coming on here and talking about real life things that we deal with in our community. I challenge you to be more mentors.
That's real.
To not just youth, but to find, even in our own families, those people that may be struggling internally, because in our culture, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about what we're going through mentally. We don't talk about the pressures that are put on us by society and things like that. We've just been groomed to, we got to be strong. We don't do that. So I challenge you to do that, because not for a fulfillment in yourself, but for fulfillment and purpose, for continuing to be, those that are in our communities that break these curses and helping those, because you lose nothing. Yeah. People ask me why I give out information for free. I lose nothing. With knowledge comes power. I want to equip all of my people with power, because with power, I have leverage. The more Black people, the more Spanish people, the more culturally diverse people that have power, the more leverage we actually have. We tired of oppression? Stop oppressing each other. stop competing with each other.
That's real.
Because if I say to you, hey, I know that I want to be in the trucking business, I can come to you. If I say, hey, let's do some real estate deals together, we've got leverage now. But we've all done what we needed to do to get that. I can't do that to someone that has no idea what we're talking about. But if I gave them the knowledge, maybe we've now got 4 or 5 people we got leverage with.
Yeah.
So I challenge you to be mentors, not just to the youth, not just to feed and pour back into our youth, but pour back into those that are also around those youth every day.
That's real.
Because we are going to change the game. We may not be alive to see it all the way change, but every little thing that we do is going to make some type of difference.
You have a really big heart, man. I see that. I didn't know that. I mean, being that you know, like where you at in your status, and then I can see that you real genuine about the youth and about helping your people and everybody around you. Like you said, you build bosses and you building that boss mentality. So I salute you on that.
Thank you.
That was a lot that stood out to me, being that, because you could just be doing other things and just be like, you know, shit.
Stuck up and mean what people think I am because I'm cute. No, girl, I'm
I mean,
just
you got to when it
cute.
comes to
Okay.
business,
I mean,
though.
yeah, that too.
But in the
Yeah.
business, when I'm on my business, I'm on my business.
Yeah, business.
Yes,
we
I salute
talking
that,
business,
man.
I mean, I just appreciate the opportunity as a whole, man. When you extended the invite, I mean, I just want to show my gratitude for real. You could have chose anybody. You could have chose a Tampa native, but you chose a couple country ass folk boys.
Yeah, man.
But because
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
what, like, honestly, when I walked to the table that day, it was the energy
Oh yeah, oh,
that
so
hit me, and I
Yeah.
said, I need them. And I'm that kind of person where
Yeah,
if your energy is good, we gonna click.
that's real.
If it's bad, I'm gonna feel like I need to throw up. I'm gonna get chills and stuff.
Yeah,
But I just knew right there, and that's why I was like, I need y'all
yeah.
because you have a story and you have purpose, and everything that you guys went through is for testimony to change the game.
That's true.
We don't just change the game in what we do, you know, for ourselves and our own families. We gotta change the game as a whole
That's real.
because these kids have to grow up and raise some kids someday.
That's real.
And unfortunately, one of these kids might be the president. And we gonna have to really be like, I hope they was on the right track because,
Hopefully ain't mine.
you know, some of these kids is it's so unfortunate because at the age that we weren't lost like them. So I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your words of wisdom,
Thank you.
your intellect, everything that you guys had to say. I think we really just collectively come together and take care of our community and pour back in. And I would like to thank our sponsors, Jack Daniels and Herradura. We gonna drink some more, guys. And, you know, we thank you for watching KP on the mic, where we're talking about social economic statuses, inequalities, and overcoming those obstacles to be entrepreneurs. Overcoming oppression to be the best at what we do. So, cheers to that. Well, we don't got no more cheers because we drank it all, but, you know, thank you. So, KP on the mic, and we out, y'all.
Shoot.